to have a $1.7 billion contract be automatically renewed when we don't even know what happened with the first contract. That's just irresponsible with taxpayers' money.
Senator Scott Wilk is one of many who's frustrated tonight after the state's COVID lab contract auto-renewed this weekend, despite ongoing state and federal investigations into the lab that were prompted by our reports.
CBS 13 investigative reporter Julie Watts says new details on the federal investigation and what taxpayers actually got for their money.
Yeah, regulators still won't release reports of their investigations into problems at the state lab. But in an interesting twist, we're learning more about what they found thanks to the high-profile Elizabeth Holmes Theranos trial. Now, the state's COVID lab director is the former lab director of Holmes' disgraced finger prick blood testing company, and court records reveal his license is at risk not because of the flawed tests at Theranos, but because of what investigators found at the state's COVID lab. The Silicon Valley trial of Theranos founder Elizabeth Holmes is a long way from Valencia, the home of California's troubled PerkinElmer Public Health COVID testing lab. But the state's lab director, Dr. Adam Rosendorf, has been traveling back and forth.
Dr. Rosendorf, any comment on today's testimony?
He's a key whistleblower and witness for the feds against Holmes, his former boss at Theranos. In an attempt to discredit him, her defense attorneys brought up the federal investigation into faulty tests at his current PerkinElmer Public Health COVID lab, an investigation prompted by our whistleblower reports.
They're jeopardizing people's lives.
Whistleblowers revealed unlicensed lab techs asleep while processing COVID samples, test swabs found in lab restrooms, incidents of contamination, swap samples, and tens of thousands of inconclusive COVID tests.
The public deserves to know what's going on in their state lab.
Both state and federal regulators opened investigations into the state lab, but the court's now acknowledging a potential conflict of interest in the Holmes case between those federal inspectors and the state's lab director. You see, the government inspectors who Rosendorf is testifying for in the Theranos case are the same government inspectors investigating Rosendorf's own work at California's COVID lab. Inspectors from the same federal agency that won't respond to our Freedom of Information requests. And neither will the California Department of Public Health, which is investigating its own state lab. But in court records, Holmes attorneys revealed inspectors found serious deficiencies within the state COVID lab, ranging from inaccurate test results to quality control failures. Concerns raised by our whistleblowers, and so severe that Rosendorf testified his license is in jeopardy. One more thing the state has not revealed to the taxpayers funding the lab.
Really appreciate your efforts bringing this forward. We will continue to press until we get the answer that the public deserves.
Senate Republican leader Wilk asked the Newsom administration to delay renewing the no-bid contract with PerkinElmer until the investigations are complete. In the meantime, the state's own public data reveals the lab hasn't fulfilled the promises made when the governor announced PerkinElmer's no-bid contract.
We are demanding test results back within 24 hours, the latest 48 hours, and we have provisions in the contract to guarantee that turnaround time.
But in the last 2 weeks of September, the lab returned between a third and two-thirds of COVID results in more than 48 hours and was among the slowest labs in the state. In October, their turnaround time was still nearly twice the state average.
This was a big investment.
Though Perkin hasn't been paid in full because they haven't fulfilled their end of the bargain.
150,000 tests a day.
At its peak, the lab processed roughly a quarter of the promised capacity. And state data reveals roughly 1 out of every 42 tests at the lab did not return a clear result.
Best price guarantees.
Other companies now charge a fraction of Perkin's contracted rate with faster results. Yet the state chose to renew its no-bid contract anyway.
There's an old saw that says, you continue to do what you've done, you'll get what you've got.
The state did not respond to a request for comment from health officials, the administration, PerkinElmer, or Dr. Rosendorf.